Welcome to the Hedera HashCast, episode 11. I'm your host, Warlock and Key, and today Deepak and I will be talking with our two guests from Stader. How are you guys?
All good. Thanks for having us.
Would each of you please introduce yourselves?
Sure. Hi, I'm Gautam. I have been associated with Stader for a short while now. Fairly new to the system, learning a lot from community members, from my own colleagues, and of course through Gautam as well. And we are so glad we could be a part of this. And yeah, thank you for this.
Cool. My name is Gautam. I lead the sort of business side of our staking on Hedera. Berwin, who was very modest in his introduction, leads our marketing. And that's why he's kind of involved with the community as well.
So the community has been really excited for this interview.
Yeah.
So let's get right into it. But starting out, for those who are unfamiliar, could you please walk us through how staking HBAR works with Stader?
Sure. So just a little background on Stader, right? So Stader is essentially probably the only multi-product, multi-chain staking platform. And I'm just going to break that down a little bit, right? So Stader was formed with the core insight that, stakers or token holders come in all shapes and sizes. You have your average crypto Joe who has a few $100s worth of L1 currency, and then you have big funds who, you have hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions, right? So you, like a bank, wouldn't offer the same services to both of these customer segments. Why should staking be similar, right? So we started off by developing really modular smart contracts. Right, and our start was on Terra, where we've launched 4 different staking products, right, from plain staking to liquid staking to sort of validate a specific product, and to one which is called Degen Vaults, which is like DeFi trading strategies in a box, right? So that's a little bit of background on Stader. Hedera was our second chain. We're incredibly excited to be on Hedera because of the uniqueness of the network itself, and also it gave us chance to kind of be there right from the start of fledgling DeFi network, right? And given that, that's why we chose a liquid staking solution for Hedera, just because we wanted to sort of kickstart the whole DeFi ecosystem on Hedera. And it was probably the more difficult choice in terms of design. And our engineers weren't super happy about it. But essentially, it was probably the right one because the idea of getting staking started and bootstrapping is essentially to get the DeFi ecosystem started, right? So diving deeper into how the staking with Stader works in Hedera is that you give your HBAR to us, right? We give back a liquid token called HBARx that represents your portion of the staking pool, right? Now, as epochs pass, rewards are added to the staking pool, and based on the number of HBARx you have, it gets distributed. Essentially, it doesn't get distributed, like it doesn't get transferred to you, but the value of the HBARx increases, right? So if you have 10 HBARx today and they're worth 1.02 HBAR each, tomorrow they'll probably be worth 1.025 HBAR, right? So your staking rewards are essentially captured in your HBARx, right? And now, what's the advantage of that? Of course, it saves a bunch of it doesn't matter so much on Hedera, but on other chains, saves a bunch of costs in terms of transaction costs and not having to kind of do that. It also means that the HBAR and the value is locked into the contract, so there are less vulnerabilities, less money sort of leaving the contract, lesser number of functions. So from a design perspective, also it's better. But the biggest thing is that now you have this HBARx. It's like a tokenized representation of your stake and the value, right? So now you can use it in other places, right? So for example, like you can transfer it to a friend, right? And we don't track all of that. Ultimately, when you have to liquidate, as long as you give us back HBARx, we give you back HBAR, right? The other thing you can do, which is very interesting because there are a couple of DEXs coming on board soon on the network, is that you can sort of create liquidity pools. So people who want instant liquidity between, say, HBAR and HBARx, right, or HBARx and a stable coin, they can go there and sort of swap out their HBARx or buy into HBARx directly through that stable coin. And other folks who want to utilize their HBARx can sort of provide that liquidity and take advantage of that swap fees. Right. The next one is essentially around lending, which are the classic cases of DeFi. But conceptually, the idea of a liquid token is to sort of create this pool of available collateralized assets. Right. So if we look at a month down the line when we were not there, right? If a developer or a team looking to build a lending protocol would look at Hedera as a network, they would say, hey, right now there's a bunch of HBAR, there's no real collateralized assets. So what will we use as an asset, right? But now if you look at it, there's 430 odd million of HBARx out there, right?
Right.
So that becomes instantly attractive for developers to come in and build DEXs and build lending protocols and build options vaults and all the rest of the stuff that you've seen on other networks, right? So that was really the idea behind doing a liquid token first on Hedera.
So something I'm curious about. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Deepak.
So you mentioned having multiple ways of staking on your other products within the Terra ecosystem. So you said plain staking, liquid staking, and some validator setup. So the validator, I'm assuming, is
that's called Stake Plus. Yeah.
So is that just you spinning up a node on the Terra network and just like normal staking?
No, not exactly. So it's for larger validators, but it's for them to manage their stakers, right? So we don't run nodes ourselves, at least not till now. It's not there in our very immediate roadmap as well. But essentially, we sort of pride ourselves in providing the best and the most efficient technology layer between the stakers and the validators / nodes, right? And whether it be through plain staking or liquid staking, or Stake Plus, which is more like a wrapper around a particular validator for them to manage their stakers, or Legion Vaults, which are our fourth product.
That's really interesting. Do you have any plans on rolling out those products on Hedera as well?
Yeah, sure. So I think it's a combination of the ecosystem evolving. So let me talk about the liquid staking product and Legion Vaults are like linked. Right. So you think of liquid staking as what you would build after a DeFi ecosystem has evolved to a certain extent, right? So after the stuff that we talked about in terms of DEXs and lending protocols is out there, plus maybe some guys come up with some exotic stuff around options or whatever, right? So now you have these building blocks, then people can start creating trading strategies, right? And take a position in the market. Now that will create arb opportunities. And that will create, people with opposite views to take the opposite position, right? So you'll have these multiple sort of trading strategies being spawned in the DeFi ecosystem. Now, once you have these building blocks, then a product like Legion Vaults makes a lot of sense, right? Because then, somebody who's very good at trading strategies can sort of come in, hey, I've created this great trading strategy. Now I can put it as a vault with Stader's Legion Vaults product, and then people can sort of, just mimic that strategy in one click, and I'll get a reward for it as a creator, right? So that's the whole idea, but it's a little bit evolved, right? On the plain staking side, that's something that we are kind of discussing internally very specifically because there's a lot of HBAR locked in hardware wallets in cold storage, and a lot of those wallets don't support HTS tokens right now. Right. So one of the big things that we've learned from the community is that that's a big problem. And if we really have to truly get, more and more folks to participate, both in terms of value and number of people, then those are the kind of solutions that we need to look for. Either those wallets need to become compatible, or we need to come up with a solution which is working through the timelines of that. And maybe, plain staking might be one of the solutions that we come up with after, of course, we launch V2, which is our, immediate focus.
Something I'm super curious about is, did you seek out Hedera or did they approach you? Like, how did those first conversations go?
I think we were always sort of aware of Hedera, and we always, when we kind of started, we talked to a lot of foundations. just to get a sense of what they want, right? And decentralization in more sort of other networks as well is a problem, right? You have, I don't know, Solana has like 1,700 validators, right? But if you look at the Nakamoto coefficient, I think it's still in early double digits, right? Those kind of problems, right? And so then we essentially got talking to a lot of foundations, and that's how we kind of came across the HBAR Foundation as well. So I think it's a bit of both, because foundations are always looking for people to create, right? And we are always looking for newer and newer problems to solve. But yeah, we did prioritize Hedera quite a bit, just because we felt that this was a unique opportunity for us, right? So if like we're going to we built on Phantom, we built on Polygon, we're going to go to Near, have a specific solution of Solana as well. But we prioritized Hedera as our second sort of chain, because we felt it was a unique opportunity to kind of get in there from the start. And of course, like there's very good support from the foundation as well, and that played a part in us sort of accelerating our timelines as well.
So how was working with Hedera compared to working with some of these other chains?
Yeah, I mean, so one of the things we've seen and sort of been pleasantly surprised by is that the community is very, very active and vocal, and that helps us as creators quite a lot, right? Because good, bad, or ugly, you get instant feedback, and I think the quality of feedback is also much better, right? So folks will kind of tell you exactly what they feel is wrong, rather than a motherhood statement, hey, this is fraud, or this is this, or that's right. And so that those things as a creator aren't really useful. But if folks on the community have been really very specific, and they've asked very specific questions around math, around how it works, around security, and that has sort of helped us up our game in terms of going faster or explaining better, or just coming up with a better product. So that's kind of been a very symbiotic relationship that has helped us quite a lot, and it's been very nice.
So going into what specifically it was like working with HTS, were there any hangups or roadblocks you experienced, any issues you had?
Okay, so I'm going to do my best to answer that question, but it probably would have been best for one of our tech guys. But I think, look, with every sort of token service, there are certain nuances. But I think all in all, it wasn't that much more difficult than any other token service that we've used, or any other sort of chain that we've been on. So overall, I think it's where probably the ecosystem will sort of evolve is just the acceptance of HTS tokens, right, across the board in wallets, and having something like Wallet Connect come on board. I know that's something that's been worked on behind the scenes. So once those sort of building blocks and pieces are in place, then people will start to very quickly build or on top of Hedera, and have a lot of HTS tokens, I think. So it's always a multiplying effect once you get all these smaller building blocks in place, where people then see the light, and I'm sure the ecosystem will explode very quickly.
So as you mentioned, at the time of recording, there's over 400 million HBAR staked with Stader. Something I'm curious about is how, how does this figure compare with your expectations for this time frame? How much HBAR do you think you would have staked by now? Is it more or less?
It's more. I think initially we weren't under any sort of delusions that this will be like super easy, because we're pretty much the first C token to launch, and it's not a very simple token to understand as well, HBARx. But that's where I think I'll go back to what I was saying about the community, right? People asked us the hard questions in the first couple of weeks, and then they became champions for us, right? So we've had folks who have understood our model probably as good as we understand it. They've been like user created dashboards, and sort of we can help you with links. We can put it there once you post this. But essentially, user created dashboards, and people have answered each other's questions very, very well, which we have essentially copied and taken into our FAQs. So, like I was saying, a lot of this adoption has to do with the community sort of really championing our cause, and we're sort of very, very grateful for that.
Speaking of the community, I've got some questions that people really want answers to.
Sure.
Forgive me if you've already answered these questions. As I understand it, all current rewards are being generated by the grant given to Stader by the HBAR Foundation. Something people want to know is what happens when the grant money runs out?
Yeah, sure. So I think it's important to understand the broader vision for staking on HBAR. And I'll sort of give a broader vision first and then see there are a couple of forks that can happen, right? So ultimately, like any other POS network, the staking rewards are going to flow from nodes, and nodes are going to make money from multiple transaction costs and however else they sort of support the network, right? So, but right now there's a HIP 406, if I'm not mistaken, what number that's talking about bringing staking to the consensus mechanism and doing what we call like the supply side of staking rewards, right? So if you look at this like a marketplace or a value chain, we are really on the demand side. So we're generating the demand, we're getting users to stake, right? And then there's the supply side of passing that on to nodes and sort of collecting the rewards and funneling them back, right? So what the foundation sort of wanted to short circuit this in terms of a time frame, and wanted to sort of build this up very quickly. So what they're doing is essentially bootstrapping demand while the supply is being built up. And in the end, these pieces will talk to each other. And ultimately, the sort of flow will be completed. Now, if you look at, in that context, if you look at our architecture, we have like a staking contract, which stores all the value, and then there's a rewards contract. Now, once the protocol staking is live, the reward contract goes away and the connection is made. Now, sort of before that, the rewards contract can be, funded again, which will be funded again if the protocol staking is not live, because I think everybody kind of understands that for DeFi to work in Hedera, this is very important for a few of the first few projects to really sort of go ahead and do well. I think so. In that context, the idea is whenever protocol staking goes live, the connection will be made, and it will become like a self-sustaining loop in itself. Right. Before that, it will kind of continue to be sort of funded with rewards. And those are the numbers we kind of work with the foundation sort of day in, day out, look at what's happening. So there's a commitment till June 30th on what those numbers will look like exactly. And we're working through the numbers for sort of July and beyond. Right. Also sort of working backwards from where the current state of HIP 406 is. Right. So what I would say to the community is like be a little bit patient with us, because there are a lot of moving parts, but we'll definitely, before we ask people to commit or lock in or anything like that, we will let people know exactly what's coming in terms of rewards for the next quarter.
So it sounds like you have not only just a relationship with the HBAR Foundation, but with Hedera itself, with coordinating with actual native staking. It sounds like from your answer that
not exactly. Okay. Right. So we're not involved in the HIP 406 development as such. No, we are obviously very, very interested in things because it affects our smart contract directly. Right. But the work that's going on there is very specific to the consensus mechanism. That's really not our expertise. Right. So we are ultimately smart contract developers, and we don't have the expertise to kind of go into the network and build those kind of things. But we are very, very interested observers, and we do kind of make sure that we know the latest and greatest that's going on, so that we can align our plans to that.
So would Stader use Hedera's native staking in any way to continue the generation of rewards? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So essentially, what will happen in the end is all the HBAR that's staked at that time will be distributed through an algorithm to the nodes, and they will generate back, rewards, and that will be passed on, and that will sort of make the whole circle sustainable. That's the end vision. And of course, if somebody out there has read HIP 406, they'll also know that one of the things that why we are sort of gathering as much information as we can is going to throw up an optimization problem for us and anybody else who's kind of looking to stake on how they spread their HBAR across the nodes, right? So we're parallelly trying to understand that problem, because we know that problem is something that we will need to solve in 3 or 4 months down the line.
So something the community brings up a lot, and I'm sure you address this all the time, is why do we have to wait to remove liquidity? And I think you've explained it in bits and pieces, but just to like get that out there, what was the reasoning behind that decision?
Yeah. So, I mean, essentially, we had a development plan, right? And that development plan would have probably run into, say, May or towards the end of May or start of June, right? To give the full product, right? Because it involves, we're building on new chain, new networks, right? It involves a lot of testing and all of those kind of things, right? So what, in conjunction with the foundation, essentially what we decided to do in the middle was sort of cut this into two pieces so that we can get rewards faster to token holders, right? And I, for one, if I was a token holder, I would be glad. Looking at the markets right now, I think staking is one of the things that is generating a little bit of yield against the market headwinds. And if we would not have done that, those kind of things would have happened now, right? So 1.5 months of rewards would have kind of gone away, right? So that it was just purely that decision. Nothing, we could have combined it. It would just taken us more time. In the end, it'll probably overall take us more time, but like we sort of decided that from a user perspective, it's better if we start giving out the rewards to token holders first, take a gauge of the market, the reaction, right? And as you can probably see and appreciate, people are being compensated for that in liquidity in terms of fairly high sort of rewards rate and stuff like that. So that was the sort of decision that we took.
So speaking of unstaking, people will be able to unstake HBARx when Stader V2 launches. That's around July or early Q3. What can you tell us about Stader V2?
Yeah, sure. So essentially, we're looking to make it more like late June. So that's one thing I think I haven't said anytime before that's the latest view. As soon as we can, essentially on that. It'll work like this essentially that you will be you can request a withdrawal, right? And after a certain amount of days, that as soon as you request a withdrawal, that's unstaked. So your HBARx will be sort of converted back into HBAR, and after a certain amount of time, you can withdraw it into your own wallet, right? And that time will be in a short number of days, just because we don't want things moving around between an epoch, and we also don't want to have people coming in and out very quickly. So in terms of the business side of things, staking is always for long term or designed for long term token holders, right? So we don't want folks sort of coming in, taking the rewards, then going out in six hours, right? So in order to stop that, there will be a time between when the rewards stop accruing to you and you are able to take the HBAR out, because this is mostly for long-term holders, right? So that's essentially the thing. You will be able to do everything through our DApp. So there's nothing that you need to go to a third party or something like that. It'll also give you a sense of all your withdrawals and what you've done in the past, right? That's pretty much it. If you guys have seen typical liquid token solutions in or our own in other chains, it kind of works in a similar way.
So Stader's Hedera smart contracts were audited by Halborn in late March of this year. What were the findings, and was there anything you needed to change?
Yeah, sure. So with every sort of smart contract audit, there are certain findings that things sort of need to change. So we needed to change, if I remember it correctly, there's one formula that we needed to change, and a couple of informational issues that we needed to fix on the contract, like commenting and everything side. But all of those were fixed even before we launched beta, right? So if you look at, I think it's page 10, if I'm not wrong, they sort of pinpoint the issues in the first draft of the audit, and then they pinpoint that the fact that the second submission fixed all of those on 5th April or something like that, and then we sort of deployed that. So I would look at it as a regular process of audit. Right? And overall, I don't think even on the first one there were any critical issues. Right, so it was I think one or two on the medium side and one or two on the informational side, and that was pretty much it, right? So I think it was a pretty clean sort of report, and of course on V2 we're going to have a fresh audit, right? And we're talking to Halburn as well as another party to do the audit. We might launch with one audit, or we might launch with both audits, but at certain time we'll probably have a couple of parties look at the code to make sure that it's robust enough and continues for a long time.
So this is a little more technical follow-up question. As far as we know,
Sure.
The smart contract source code is not visible. So if that's the case, how can we trust that it has been audited correctly?
Okay. There's a couple of things that you should, which should sort of give you confidence. One is, Halburn as a company has audited quite a lot of, other protocols and chains, etc. And, their track record is kind of visible on the website. B, there are code snippets and stuff within the report that talk about, different functions within the report. C, the code is also being sort of reviewed by the foundation. So there's been a few set of eyes on that code itself. Right. So yeah, I think those are the sort of mitigating factors. And again, on V2, those factors will kind of remain. Plus, I think we've done this on Terra periodically, that we always sort of go ahead in a fixed period of time, get another party to look at our code, even if not much has changed. Right? And that's largely because we just want to make sure that it's always robust. So we look at security as a continuous kind of exercise, where audits are sort of one quiver in our sort of bow, and we look at other things in terms of having peer reviews, having multi-sig, wallets for changing any code and stuff like that, to make sure that we're always kind of up to date.
So this is another question from the community, just for clarification, because there does seem to be a lot of confusion about Stader and how HBARx works. So all the HBAR that is currently staked with Stader is locked up in a smart contract. Yeah. Can you walk me through how HBARx is gaining value while the HBAR is locked up?
Sure. So let me choose, small numbers, right? Just say we go back to the start, right? So we go back to the start, there's nothing in the smart contract, right? There's no HBARx in circulation, right? So say, you stake 100 HBAR, right? The exchange rate is 1, you get back 100 HBARx, right? Nothing happens at the end of the day. Now, at the end of the day, 10 rewards are added to the contract, right? So nobody is staked, just the rewards are added to the contract, right? So the total rewards in the contract are 110, right? But the total HBARx in circulation is only 100 because nobody's staked, right? So hence, now each of your HBARx is worth 1.1 because the exchange rate at any point in time is the total value of the contract divided by the total HBARx in circulation, right? So this happens in a more complex manner, right? So if multiple people stake at a particular point in time, what the contract does is looks at the exchange rate at that particular point in time, gives you back a commensurate HBARx to the HBAR that you've given in, right? And then when rewards are added, that's a separate function call, and that does not trigger a change in the denominator, but changes only in the numerator. Hence, the exchange rate in HBAR terms keeps on going up, right? But when you unstake, eventually, you give back HBARx, right? So the contract looks at the exchange rate, gives you back your HBAR, which is commensurate with that. And what it does, it burns the HBARx that you gave back. So ultimately, both the numerator and denominators go down, but the ratio remains the same. So staking and unstaking doesn't move the exchange rate. The only thing that moves the exchange rate is the rewards addition, right? And hence, in HBAR terms, the exchange rate always keeps on going up.
Right. Okay. I think that's going to be much needed clarification for a lot of people. Sure. So my final question is, native staking is on Hedera's roadmap for Q2, as we know. What is the advantage of using Stader once native staking is live?
Sure. So there are a few things, right? So native staking is going to be of the plain variety, right? So you will essentially, you need to keep your HBAR in your account for native staking to work, right? So HBARx itself, again, being a liquid token, gives you all of the advantages of a liquid token, of going out, making your strategies and using it in multiple places. Interestingly, specifically for HIP 406, we are going to also build an optimizer which is going to maximize your APYs, right? So if you look at HIP 406, how it sort of works is that each of the nodes will have like a minimum staking requirement and a maximum one. So if you were to sort of add each of the accounts that are sort of linked to or staked to a particular node, can have a movement in their HBAR as well, right? Which will essentially change the amount staked on that node, right? So you can imagine the complexity of this in terms of every epoch, you will probably need to solve optimization problem if you have to maximize your APY. Now, what will that difference be if you leave it on one node and forget about it versus if you optimize? Not sure, but there will be a difference for sure. Right. So if you come stake with us, either through HBARx or through if we launch a plain staking solution, you get that backend, optimizer free, essentially, right? So yeah, those are the two main reasons. Of course, there's obviously, better reporting, DApp, and et cetera, audited smart contracts and stuff like that. So all of that kind of is pretty standard, but very specifically to Hedera, I think it's going to be these two main things that should drive users to stay with us in the long run.
All right. I think that does it for all the questions I have. This is going to be a very informational episode. I'd like to thank our guests for agreeing to be here. I really appreciate it. And I think people are going to get quite a lot out of this interview. Now, if you enjoyed this podcast, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel, following us on Twitter at Hedera HashCast, and supporting us via Patreon or by buying one of our patron NFTs. Thank you for listening and for helping to build a consensus in the Hedera community. Thank you to our patrons, ABFT, FTW, Moon88, and DJ.